Also, yeah, just a heads up, we are going to record this. So, um, I mean, assuming acquiescence to that consent. But secondly, please just do, I mean, again, if you choose to do any malpractice, it is going to be in record. Uh, and as a collective, we do not hesitate from filing an ICC complaint. So just doing that. Not starting with a warning, but kind of starting with a warning. We are very cute people. But if you mess with us, we'll really mess with you. So that's just that. All right. Do we have more people joining in? Okay, we do. Cool, I guess. Let's just admit all of them. Let's just maybe wait for 2 more minutes, right? And then we can start.
Cute only.
Finally, people switching on their cameras. Thank you. I see Shubhi, Achal, Shivani, Kritika, and then essentially 5 slides of people whose names I'm seeing. Okay, that's okay, I guess. I mean, like,
Ansh, you can keep gallery view so that you can see
oh
more
yeah,
people.
I am seeing them. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see
Oh,
more
acha,
people.
okay.
Pranav, Tanvi, Uday, Payal. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just bound to Harshit also. Yeah, I guess that's just bound to happen in this online format, right? Many of us live in closed knit spaces. Many of us don't have really, a free space around to ourselves. So that's totally fine. But yeah, we really like it. If okay, wow, that's great. I feel this is the first orientation where I'm seeing so many people switch on their cameras. So that's amazing,
Same.
right?
Feels nice.
Although
Feels
I've
Right.
been,
nice.
yeah,
So
I've
much
been
of
in 2 orientations only, but still.
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, this is great. Love the hype already for QFC. I really hope this is hype
Same.
only. This is not like
Yeah, it should stay.
I
Otherwise,
really hope it stays. Yeah,
yeah.
great. All right. I think we can start. People then
Yeah,
keep on coming in, and then it's their loss and whatever. All right. Great. Formally starting.
Um, I'll keep admitting people in the middle too, no
Amazing.
problem.
That'll be great. Thank you so much. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ansh Sharma, as you can see on the window. I go by they and pronouns. The reason I especially mention is because my pronouns is because you'll be hearing a lot of this when you become a part of this collective, hopefully. And yeah, you'll be hearing all sorts of new things, people announcing their pronouns, telling you all sorts of things. And we really hope you're used to it and you get used to it. But coming back to me, having my moment of self-obsession here, right? Hi, my name is Ansh. I am a second year student here at SBSC right now. Just a second. Yeah, I'm one of the people managing this wonderful space called the Co-Feminist Collective of Shahid Bhagat Singh College. I currently serve as its coordinator. And yeah, basically a very boring person to talk to, but also a fun person to talk to. So that's that. Now, before I go on to talk about QFC, and again, as I've been told, sell it to you as it's our duty as the core. I want to truly congratulate all of you for making it out of high school, rather escaping it, right? Which I think most queer individuals, if there are any here, or frankly anyone individual, any person will relate to. I think there's a general consensus here that high school was shit, pure shit. You might have friends there, you might have memories there, but it was still shitty. It was just regressive, restrictive. There was so much you wanted to talk about, but there was just no space for you to talk about it. And yeah, I'm genuinely very happy that you are out of that space now. This orientation is also very important for, I think, all of the people in the current core here, because one of the major motivations for creating this collective was that at least the batches which come after us have a space to go to already existing, that you people will not have, and the ones who come after you will not have to create a quiet space on your own. You will not have to create a space for kids who want to have difficult conversations, for kids who want to have that sense of belongingness, and that at least that is something we can have for you. So yeah, very senti moment for us right now. But anywho, again, congratulations on making it out of high school. I really hope that these 3 years change you for the better, not for the worse. And yeah, that's it. Therein, done my duty as a senior. Let's start talking about the Queer Feminist Collective now. So the way this orientation will work is like any other orientation, frankly, right? That's max you get on uniqueness, right? We'll have a small presentation. We'll talk about the space, just try to clear all the preempted doubts, and then we have a chit chat, right? Whatever questions you have, want to talk about anything about QFC, you have a question about QFC, ask it out. You have a question about college, although again, we haven't seen college, so we might not be able to answer them very well. But we'll try our best to answer it out and help you out on that note. And yeah, let's just talk. I mean, there was no formal pressure. So let's just talk about it. Tell us who you are, tell us what you want, and what you expect from QFC, right? Before I go on to that, very basic instructions. You are a quarantine batch, so I'm hoping all of you are aware of them already, right? Um, Unmute yourselves only when asked. Do not do anything insensitive. Do not do any malpractices. Again, we are recording this. We will file a complaint. Plus, in general, the least people can do is respect efforts of other people for creating this orientation. Right? Let's all have a happy place. Let's all have a good orientation, and then let's do that. All right. A little background on this collective. We started out in May 2021 when we were in first year. Okay. Is it better?
I mean, it's working for me.
It's working. Okay. Can
Yeah.
someone else please confirm if like, all right. Whoever wrote Ansh Bhai, like whoever wrote that comment can you like maybe check if like, it's in your end? All right. So all right, coming to the Queerness Collective. We started this out in May 2021 as a space intending to be both a support group, both a discussion forum, and both frankly just a group of people who really, really hate gender, who really, really hate this entire facade of gender, and want to talk about it. And well, in some ways, take our revenge from gender, right? Many of us here have been messed up by gender. Our high school life was messed up by gender. So it's kind of our revenge time now that, you know what, apna time aa gaya hai, something like that, just to sound cool. Next slide, please. Great. Some basic things. Again, we are a student collective, no teachers involved. Another reason about that will be told to you later, which might turn you off. I really hope it doesn't. But basically, we are a student collective. Addition to that, not a competing society. Why is that distinction really important to clarify here, right? You might have had orientations of various other societies, music society, dram soc, deaf soc, there's yes, all sorts of things, right? The culture that these societies inculcate, again, without saying anything like we don't agree with this culture, that's not what we are saying. But the culture in these societies is precisely one of competition, right? You are trained, then you go out, you compete with other societies. That's not what happens here, right? At a point we say that we are a collective, then that is the very foundational ethos of this space. All of us work in a collaborative manner. No one is better than someone else. No one is more queer. No one is more aware than someone else. All of us are here for one and only thing, just trying to learn, unlearn, and relearn together. Right? So the very existence in this collective is a collaborative effort. You'll constantly be in teams, you'll constantly be in groups, and you'll constantly trying to learn from the people around you. Secondly, group of queer identifying individuals and allies, very simple, right? I mean, I'm really hoping that was clear from the very beginning. It is a space for queer individuals and allies of queer individuals, right? Again, the reason why the space should exist, you don't have any spaces anywhere else. That's literally the only reason. You don't have these in high school. You don't have these in familial spaces. You might not even have friend circles wherein you can have conversations which you might want to as a queer individual. So the point of having a queer collective is precisely that. Have those conversations. Have friends who relate to you, have friends who relate to your experiences and can understand them. instead of only sympathizing with them. At the same time, for allies, it is a space to learn from current issues. It is a space, moreover, to really engage in actual allyship instead of just retweeting or saying, "Oh, I am an ally." Right? It is a space about constantly questioning your allyship, and it is at the same time a space about constantly questioning your own position in society. A space about questioning who you are, what privileges you consume, and what is it that seems normal for you but is a problem for others. All right. I think with regard to questions, so let's not raise any hands right now, right? Because that will break the entire flow. We'll take all your questions at the very end. Cool. Great. Coming to the other thing, space to voice feminist concerns. I don't even want to start on how much something like this is needed. Right. Before I go on to this, there is this very interesting thing called WDC, which is mandated by UGC in every college and every university. Is it better now? Can am I loud enough? Cool.
Yes,
Aryan,
yes.
you might want to check on your end. All right. So basically, there's this space called WDC, Women's Development Cell. There is somewhere in some colleges they have Women's Welfare Association, all that jazz. Um, One sentence, those spaces are shit, right? I am very much trashing those spaces. You can hurt me for that if you want. Why are they problematic? Because all they care about, firstly, they're mandatory spaces. So like very many often you will see cis het men being the presidents of women's development cells, right? The joke in it is if I need to explain the joke in it to you, then maybe reconsider joining this space. But the point being that all those spaces do is that they hold essay competitions, or they're like, oh, women empowerment, lik denge, but not actually doing women empowerment, right? But that's not feminism. We all know that, right? That's not what feminism stands for. Feminism is not just about women empowerment. There's so much more to feminism, right? The way I think we see feminism in this collective is that feminism is a critique in itself, both of the outer world, both of patriarchy, but at the same time, feminism is possibly the best way to think, right? I'll come to that anecdote later. But one thing you really need to know is that if you study gender, if you study feminism, then you most certainly are understanding how to think altogether, right? And that's one of the biggest benefits of studying feminism. Fifth thing, the slightly turning off part. Because we are a queer feminist collective, because we are trying to have conversations which universities don't want you to have, which admins don't want you to have, because they are scandalous conversations, because they are outrightly bold conversations. We are not an official collective, right? In the sense that what is the meaning of being an official space in any college? At a point, you are an official space, you get money, you get certificates signed by the principal if you are in core. Um, you get that sort of help from the admin to call guests, basically institutional support for an activity. Um, the fact that our institution does not want to support us for what we are doing says a lot about the institution, but that's in general university, right? So it's not just SBSC. Throughout the university, throughout India, most of the queer collectives do not have institutional support, right? It's only in posh universities like Ashoka, wherein they get a hell lot of money to do these things. But there's a problem with that itself. So that's one thing. But the benefits, frankly, of being an unofficial space is firstly, we get that underground aura with us, right? You are literally a part of the protest. At a point, you're a member of this collective. Your existence, your very membership is a stance that you take, right? Is a stance that you take that as a student, you want this conversation to happen. As a student, you want this space to exist. And as a student, you want people to talk about these things. And you let the administration know that, okay, at a point, you don't allow this space and you don't support this space, and that's not something you agree with. Whether or not you want to take that stance as a student, totally up to you. Secondly, we do not have teachers bugging us around. You go in other societies, you will have core members tell you all sorts of dramatic shit. Teachers surveilling their Instagram post, teachers surveilling. I mean, a very interesting thing. I think Akshat would like to share that. Akshat, do you want to share the entire 2021-24 instance? Vaishnavi, could someone make Akshat the host? Yeah, so Akshat is one of the members managing QFC. And Akshat would have a very interesting instance he wants to share with you. Yeah, Akshat.
Are we talking about Akshat or
Akshat,
Askit?
Akshat, 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 Akshat.
Okay.
Yeah, can someone unmute Akshat?
Yeah, so basically, in one of the societies that I'm a part of, we were making the posters for the orientation. So we were writing the badge of 2024. So one of the teachers basically objected to that and said that since they are coming in to 2021, it's supposed to be 2021, and there was, there was a lot of time wasted on that. So yeah, these kind of things happen in societies which are official. I'll not name the society, but it happens in all the societies. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's way worse things happening. At a point, you're official people. You can't call people you want to call. You'll have to get approval of all sorts of things. So, frankly, although we get the demerits of being an unofficial space, there are several merits in being an unofficial space as well. We can genuinely call anyone we want to. We can genuinely, if that person wants to come, then the admin won't stop us, right? That's that. Lastly, voluntary membership. Um, Again, membership is voluntary, right? There are no obligations here. Voluntary membership, voluntary contributions. I'll come to the contributions section later, right? But a major clarification that you should be having at the very beginning of this orientation, and after which you might really want to decide if you want to be a part of it or not. We are not going to give anyone any certificate of allyship. You are not going to be a gender champion here. This is not school anymore. You will not get a certification for doing the bare minimum, right? The point of this space in voluntary membership is that your contribution is voluntary because you care about the space, because you want to be a part of the space. That is why you are here, right? We anyway can't give certificates because the college does not approve them. But at the same time, we most definitely have LOAs, letters of appreciation, for people who contribute to the collective in various positions. But that is, again, the point being that if coming to this collective, if the sole motivation is having that token gender column in your CV or your resume, then you most certainly need to reconsider that decision. Because this collective is, for one, going to expect a lot more from you. This collective hopes to change your worldview, and for that, you most certainly need not come only for a certificate. Secondly, as someone who's anyway planning a career in gender, right, I most certainly assure you that being a part of a queer feminist collective, that token thingy will not be sufficient to come up with that gender thingy, right? There are several courses you can do on Coursera on gender if you really want to be that tokenistic person who talks about diversity, inclusion only on text but doesn't really practice it, right? So if you want to be that person, that's a choice, we respect it. But do reconsider being a part of this space, because this space is most certainly going to change you in many different ways, and you'll have to just be collaborative in that. Next slide, please. Great. Mission to create a safe space for queer individuals in the college. That's the first mission, right? Queer individuals don't have a safe space anywhere. Period. There is no safe space, right? Be it family spaces, be it high school spaces, there is nothing like a safe space that exists for queer individuals, right? That's precisely why we feel that this college and this collective can be your safe space. Repeating the very same idea. This is the place wherein you get to have those tough conversations. This is the place where you get to relate to people who have similar experiences as you, people who are still trying to figure themselves out, people who are who have figured themselves out but want to talk about it and don't have anyone else to talk about it. People who really, really want someone to talk about who they are dating, who's their crush, what are their desires. We've had conversations on Grinder, for heaven's sake, but the ones who know it, right? And that's the precise point. People who aren't queer often aren't able to get these conversations because they don't question their allyship. So that's precisely the idea. Safe space for queer individuals, support group for allies. Secondly, to permeate feminist questions. Feminist questions do not exist in your university. If someone told you that the U is a very feminist place, they are lying to you, or they went to the old U, right? Feminism exists in this university only in text, be it through WDCs, be it through majors such as pol science or philosophy, wherein there is a course on feminism. wherein people write all sorts of beautiful essay answers, gender equality, but they don't really want to do gender equality, right? So that kind of feminism exists in the university. But that's not the kind of feminism we want. And that's most certainly not the kind of feminism you should be having either as anyone, as students especially. So yeah, the intention here is to talk so much about feminism that it becomes mainstream and to question the mainstream through a feminist lens. Lastly, to have a community, to have a support group. You have a problem, you have your people to reach out to, right? But I say like for everyone who is in QFC right now, we know that if we face an issue in the college, if we are discriminated against, we have a space standing with us. You want to have a fight, we are standing beside you. And trust me, the moment I really hope it doesn't happen to you though. But the moment you face discrimination in the college, right, you really would want to have that fight. But many times people don't have those fights just because the only thing that it's that they're alone. That's what we are here for. You need support. You need people to sign statements. You need people to go to the principal and be like, okay, this is not right. You can't be treated in that manner. This is your support group for that. And obviously, sense of belongingness. Very simple thing. There are things you will do in college for your CV or your resume. There are things you will do in your college for just making memories, for making bonds, for being a part of a community. QFC will most certainly be that space for you. We talk so much that you will have that sense of belongingness for you. And again, genuinely, so other societies will tell you this very cliche phrase, home away from home. QFC is genuinely home away from home. All right, next space, next slide. Great, this is where I'll stop quickly. All right, the vision. Firstly, and again, it will be elaborated on very soon. Firstly, again, to create a wholesome community of students within the college, you're all in the online mode. You probably will be in the online mode for a very long time, not scaring you off. But you still want, it will, but feminism in India will require a lot more from you. Also, feminism in India is also very questionable space. That's the point. We also question feminists, right? We don't, so like, a major thing. Many of you might, think that you are feminist right now, and you might be. But the point in being QFC is that you question your own feminism. Am I feminist enough? Is my feminism violating anyone else? But coming back from that, okay, I'll come to the second point a little more, right? Two things in that message that you see: intersectional and a discourse on gender and sexuality, right? We'll come to intersectional at a later moment, but let's talk about gender first, right? In the chat quickly, can someone tell me where you see gender? Anything, anything and anything. Can someone just tell me where you see gender? Examples of gender. I'll wait for a minute because you want to type, but yeah. Okay. Reservation for government jobs. Okay. Anyone else? If it's only one person out of 99 who's listening, washrooms, okay. Then if it's like only one person out of 99 who's listening, then what are we here for? Washrooms, okay. Gender-based roles, okay. Colleges for women, okay. Is that it?
Come on यार, इतनी प्यारी आवाज है अंश की, कुछ तो और कुछ नहीं
Quality
तो
check.
like
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so sorry, Vaishnavi.
no
I'm so
no go
But great. 1% discussion. All right. Okay, Dhruv.
Think
That's
about more familiar spaces, family,
every
religion,
sketch. Yeah.
workspace, etc.
All right. So I see very interesting thing. Identification cards. Uh, I see security checks. I see. Yeah. All right. So let's start with a simple anecdote. Let's start, and this might be thoda sa long, right? But let's make up a certificate school, cool, family gatherings. All right. Let's start with a simple anecdote, right? I'm assuming all of you have been through, let's take Karina's model, right? Have all of you been through some sort of a security check? If you've been to a metro station, or if you've been to a mall, or if you've been to a hospital, if you've been to a government center, अगर तुम्हें आधार भी लेना है अपना, so you had to go through that security check, right? You go there, you enter the main gate. you see two boxes, literally two boxes, one for men, one for women, right? You see them, you decide which one you want to go from, which one you want to go through. In that, you are doing gender, right? As someone who again is perceived as a man, let's say I want to go from the women's box. I will not be allowed to do that, right? Both the men's column security guards and the women's column security guard will tell me that, no, this is not your gender. Very monotone. Your voice is not clear. How is that monotone? Is my voice clear?
Perfectly fine for me.
All right. Great. Essentially, yeah, coming back to it. There is someone. Okay. Is there still disturbance from my end?
थोड़ा सा दूर कर ले, बहुत थोड़ा सा.
Fair. Cool. You choose to do, as someone who's a man, you choose to go through a women's box. People telling you what your gender is. Therein, your gender is not something you decide. People get to decide your gender, right? Their perception of your gender matters. Let's say you go through the men to men box. Who gets to check you? Who gets to touch you? Men touching men, women touching women. That is also gender, right? Then let's say men are checked openly, but women are checked in enclosures, right? There's a box, right? There's a conversation about shame. Then one asks, is shame then imposed on people perceived as women? And is shame not even accessible to people perceived as men? What about men who do not want to be touched by random men? Right? So in that 2-minute journey, totally, in that 2-minute journey, in that 20-step journey, you are doing gender in so many ways. That is the kind of conversation you'll have in QFC. The reason for giving you that anecdote was to tell you this. Our conversations on gender are not basic. We don't just shout gender equality, but we really are trying to achieve gender equality here. That's the point. Next slide, please. Yeah, Vaishnavi.
I'm sorry, my laptop just slipped away. Anywho, hi, this is Vaishnavi Kashyap. I also am a second-year student, currently serving as the secretary of the Square Feminist Collective, and I'm currently pursuing BCom honors. But that's all about me. I don't like to talk about myself enough. So after itni soothing awaaz of Ansh, I'm gonna babble a lot when I say a lot. So yeah, let's go. So as Ansh talked about so many heavy things, let me just lighten it up a little bit for you. So when we say we are a community of people, we don't necessarily just mean that we are here for, only talking serious stuff. Yes, that is our main objective. But when we say we are a community, हमारा मतलब है तुम्हारे पास एक genuinely एक family है. I'll give you an anecdote of my own. I usually don't like to talk about myself, जैसे मैंने अभी starting में बोला. But there are so many activities we do in a community यहाँ पे कि आपको लगता ही नहीं है कि आप कुछ ऐसा कर रहे हो जहां आप uncomfortable हो. You start feeling very comfortable, and that is the basic motive of us to exist as a community here at QFC. Before I start with anything, there's one thing that I want to talk about though. Once you come into this collective, there's one thing that we always say, that this is a safe space. But we need to note this fact, and this is very important, that this space is not safe just because we say it's safe, right? It's not just the duty of certain people to keep it safe, but all the people who end up coming here and become the part of this community, it's everyone's duty to keep it safe. So what do I mean by that? मेरा मतलब यही है कि आप जब आते हो यहाँ पे, it's just basic respect for everyone here. And that's what we learn as well. Like, what do you really mean by respect at the end of the day? What do you mean by certain boundaries, right? So, अगर हमने इस जगह को safe space रखना है, that's not just a duty of certain people, but everybody that is involved in here. But let's talk about how we keep it as a community that is very fun and yet is able to have a lot of conversations that are very heavy if you have to talk about it like that. So yeah, so these are certain things we do here as a community. So during the last Pride month, we ended up having a makeup session. So people have certain perception about makeup sessions, right? But for us, like in general, when I talk about makeup in QFC, it's self-expression. There's no connotation to makeup at the end of the day. Makeup is just makeup. It's a tool to express ourselves. And we ended up having a very cute session where we were just talking with each other. I remember it was like first or second time Aditya actually touched makeup, and he's like, oh my god, I'm gonna make a mess out of it. But look at him, he's looking so cute here. So it's more about pushing each other to, feel comfortable, to be able to, express yourself. Up at the end of the day, acha feel karo. That was our idea, and we ended up having a very cute and successful makeup session at the end of the day. यहाँ पे मेरी शक्ल भी है, and मैंने भी like पहली दूसरी बारी touch किया था makeup, and I ended up making a like प्यारा सा एक तो I made a heart here, and I made like rainbow pura sa flag, and it was very cute. It was a very cute evening that we had. But these are one of the many sessions we end up having, and these are our methods to try and inculcate this feeling of community. Most importantly, we have listening circles. Big fan. Anyone who is currently in QFC, आप किसी से भी बात करो, they'd be like, यहाँ पे listening circles बहुत अच्छे होते हैं, and that's very unique about our space in general. आपको पूरे college में कहीं पे भी एक listening circle नहीं मिलेगा. So what is a listening circle? In short, we call it a Roni session. We end up like it's almost every quarter of a month. We got, oh my god, what am I saying? I'm sorry. Every fortnight, every night at like 9, every fortnight at 9 p.m. we end up coming together and we just rant about how a week or 2 week or whatever time period that has been. Like हमारा कैसा गया time सारा, हमने कितने झंडे उखाड़े, कितने रोनी पाए, and like everything. People end up crying here, people end up laughing. It's like every emotion is felt in that listening circle. And the point of having it at the end of the day is because it's a safe space, we know this thing is not going out of this listening circle. Everyone here understands the fact कि अगर कोई मेरे को कोई अपनी स्टोरी सुना रहा है, अपनी लाइफ की कोई भी इंसिडेंट को किसी इंसिडेंट को सुना रहा है मुझे, this is my duty to keep it with myself and not broadcast it anywhere. So when we have that kind of respect, when we have that kind of trust, it happens to be a very successful work. And we started 9 p.m. and there have been like instances where we just kept on talking till 3 a.m. in the morning. And I'm not joking. We literally just kept on speaking. And कोई topic नहीं होता है listening circles का. We're like, कुछ भी बोल रहे हैं. पहले हम शुरू करते turn by turn. We're talking about our lives, how everything is going on. But we also end up having really good conversations, not just about feminism and the queer community, and not just about empowerment, but life in general. So the idea is that this is your community, this is your family. So when we talk about empowerment, you just need to know that you have this family who is going to stand by you. As Ansh talked about, agar kisi se ladna bhi hai, if you have to get some signatures, kuch bhi hai, you have us. Aisa idea hai hamara, and this is how we try to inculcate that. Other than that, we also have movie nights. Okay, you can call it an agenda type movies that we actually end up screening. But the point is, we end up like bonding a lot on these nights, right? Yes, these movies do have a particular topic, but we stop at every moment when we can and actually appreciate that what kind of content we are seeing right now. Oh god, I can't speak. I'm so sorry. I'm just very excited to see you all. Oof, sorry. But yeah, the idea of having those movie nights is to start certain conversations. I think Akshat can explain it better than me, like how the entire experience is. Akshat, do you want to say? Yeah.
Okay, better or worse, kuch nahi hai. I think everyone has their own experience. So what I do is it's mostly either me or Ronit. Ronit is another member in the Queer Feminist Collective. So both of us download certain movies and we all in the QFC excellent waiting room mein koi hai. Okay, huh. So the QFC watches that movie in the night mainly or in the evening whenever. This also happens, I think, every like once in every fortnight. So the experience is very good, honestly, because there are different mediums. Okay, mediums to singular hota hai. There are different media through which you can understand what goes on in a queer person's life, what goes on in a queer person's mind. ठीक है? We have all sorts of media. There are academic um okay, I'll answer this later, but okay, we share links of articles, we share academic content, things that you can read, books, etc. But at the same time, we also recognize that this might not be sufficient for people to know what a real like queer experience feels like, what are the feelings that you experience when you face certain situations. So essentially, I think having movie nights and watching these movies made me realize a lot as to what goes on in this, like in people's lives, and how it looks like in reality. So for example, I think, Ansh, what was the last movie that we watched? It was regarding some professor, right? Aligarh, yes. Aligarh. So the last movie that we watched was Aligarh, and it was about a real life incident about a professor in Aligarh Muslim University who was a queer individual, and how um, they what all difficulties they faced and how their life went in the, like in all the chaos that happened, right? So just having another medium of understanding what this looks like is something that is very helpful. So yeah, that is all I would like to say. Thank you.
So, Ansh, I can't hear you. Ansh, I can't hear you.
Can I just add something for movie nights?
Let's go.
Yeah, sure.
Great. All right. So you'll see a very interesting phrase in this screen, right? But you're black and you're male and you're gay, right? Now, this is a movie, a documentary film, one of the biggest classics out there, called Paris, Paris is Burning. It is about the black drag culture in suburban America, right? And the violence trans individuals have to face. There was a lot in this movie which qualifies it as inappropriate for other societies and other departments to screen it, right? But as a student, you want to see everything and you want to see bold conversations, right? That's another thing, by the way. The movies we watch, movies, let's say like Aligarh, which essentially is a story about a professor, as Ashok mentioned, was penalized by the very university he taught in for decades, right? These are not the movies which other spaces will let you see. You go tell them that I want to screen this movie, there is bound to be some obstacle. They'll be like, okay, no, they'll tell you very funny thing. We watched this 3 years ago. When we weren't even in the college, we watched this. So this has been done already. So yeah, but you just can't do that, let that happen here. But in QFC, whatever you want to watch, until it is not triggering anyone, we watch it. Now go ahead, Ashwini.
Yeah, that's the idea of having community. We understand that everyone comes from a different background, everyone has their own triggers, everyone has their own experience. But once we come up here as one community, we discuss those experiences. We end up talking about so many things that we don't even understand ourselves. But once we have that, you know, आप जब उस चीज को फेस कर रहे हो किसी और के एक्सपीरियंस के थ्रू, आप जान रहे हो कि क्या हुआ है उनके साथ, एक बॉन्डिंग बन जाती है. And that's what we take pride in as well as QFC. Because I don't think, like, I have been in multiple societies. I'm not bashing anyone, but you can't have this kind of experience in any other society or any other space, per se, in any kind of college, because QFC as its own has this different sense of community at the end of the day. Now I'll shut up. I just talk a lot in general. Once you come in, you'll be like, Vaishnavi to bahut zyada bolti hai. So let's go to the serious stuff with Adi.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not really good at all of this either. Like again, just like Vaishnavi said, I'm a very chaotic person. Oh, by the way, I'm Aditya. I use to pronounce he there. I also serve as a secretary along with Vaishnavi. Um, yeah, so like again, this is not like exactly any serious stuff as such, but obviously since we are a college union, we have to keep in mind the educational or awareness aspect of things, right? So can we move to the next slide, Vaishnavi? Yeah, so this was like our most recent sort of a panel discussion where we talked about how disability basically intersects with gender, right? Because and we had along with us Shampa Sen-Gupta, who has like around 30 like more than 30 years of experience now, like in the field. And she gave us tons of insights in how like um, disability is not necessarily a gender neutral um, topic as such. And then along with Shampa, we were also joined with Shivangi, who gave us insights on how queerness and disability intersect, and how it is for like a person who is disabled in the queer community. Can we move to the next slide? This was the very first session that we had. It was with Ru and Krishanu. They are past alumni of Delhi University itself. They provided us with a lot of insights on why do colleges need queer collectives in the first place, and how basically colleges can be more uh, colleges can be more inclusive and accommodating of queer individuals, and obviously like again feminist concerns. Next slide. These were rather very sort of like, again, very fun sessions. These were like sort of less serious on their own. We had a discussion, an inter-collective discussion session on the experiences of queer people on dating apps, like how all of these dating apps are, like most dating apps do not really have like proper accommodations for, let's say, queer needs as such. And we also had a film screening with Arun Falara, who's like an amazing director. His the short film was called Sunday, which basically revolved around the idea of like how even at a very later phase of a person, they can realize certain things about the sexuality, and how even smallest of things can have like impact over a person's desires, sexual desires, or gender. Yeah, that's basically it from me. Ansh, if you might.
You can't hear you.
The blabberer is back. So thank you, Ali and Vash, for that. Great. So basically, yeah, that was just a sort of achievement section we had. What we've done in a span of, I don't know, 6 months, right? We've been here since May without any sort of institutional support, any sort of support. No sort of support has been there from any sort of spaces to us. Yet we have been able to survive and thrive, right? We have been able to call people, we have been able to exist, we have been able to talk constantly and exist as much as a society would like to. So that's that. We are here and we are queer. Where can I find Sunday? We can screen it again for you. We can have an intercollective screening if you want. It's a fairly interesting movie. Aditya mentioned it's about this man who has a family, is married to a woman, but again has no pleasures, is lonely. It's about a movie existing at the juncture of loneliness and sexuality, and about how meeting this one barber on every Sunday is the best day of his life, is the best moment of his life. So again, something we really are founding at is that we are not, our conversations are not about privileged people, right? It's not all about pinkwashing. It's not all about, oh, sexual. It's not all about case laws and make a Guru Swami and Avidhati card show. It's a lot more than that, right? Intersectionality, as I was saying earlier, is the very foundation of our collective, right? Something which we need to understand here. Then we base our conversations around queerness and feminism not in isolation, but in connection to other socioeconomic positions, right? What does caste and gender do? What does disability and gender do? Right? What is the gender experience for someone who has no money? Right? Various conversations. So again, essentially, what do we expect out of you? Firstly, be active, right? Any of you who will apply will essentially write that, I'm applying for broadening my horizon. I want to learn more about this. I want to learn more about gender, which is great. But for that, you need to be active in constantly talking, constantly put in that effort to unlearn, to relearn, to really question your own self. Secondly, again, voluntary contributions. Unlike other societies, we do not pose an obligation on you to work, right? You can very much not contribute in any possible way, but just come up for listening circles, just come up for discussion sessions, just attend the very webinars which are happening for you. And that's totally fine. But let's say if you want to make a bigger difference, let's say if you want to help managing the collective, if you want to do things, then there's definitely a space for that. For the ones who have looked at our Instagram handle, we have a stellar feed. The graphics are great. Our content is always meticulously researched, right? More importantly, a very interesting thing for anyone who wants to work in creatives, right? Other societies, if you become content head there or design head there, I know that a lot of our pitch sounds like, oh, how we are better than everyone else, which is true in some ways, frankly. But again, the point being in other societies, you don't really have freedom as a creator, right? There are teachers surveilling your content, there are seniors surveilling your content, whereas in QFC, you get that freedom, right? Design whatever you want to, write whatever you want to write about, until you are not writing phobic content, obviously, until you don't use men too as a counter to me too. But if you want to talk about men too in isolation, if you want to talk about various ideas which you are passionate about, you have that freedom here, right? Anything and everything that you want to work on, you'll get to work on. We give credits, by the way. No one else does this. On every caption, you see credits of who made that poster, brilliant posters, by the way, and who wrote that caption, right? So that's basically the point. You get material to show to people, to show to recruiters, etc. Resource, all right. I know many of you aren't, many of the people in the groups aren't here, but I'll just share this very simple document that we made.
Sorry.
That we made at the resource department, right? So the resource division actually works in a very interesting way. How many students are you going to select? Depends on how many we apply. We don't have a cap. Depends on how many people apply, how many. Yeah, sorry. Depends on how many apply. So if all of you could please just check the document I've shared with you, right? It's essentially a resource compilation on gender, sexuality, and disability, right? Disability, which was released after we conducted our session with Shampa and Shivangi. As a very concept, disability and gender is a very rare conversation, right? So the resource department here at QFC, we constantly will be sharing resources with you, be it in terms of movies, in terms of articles, in terms of TED Talks, in terms of interviews altogether. Again, not of people whom you know already, but precisely of people whom you don't know, but you can learn a lot from. More importantly, at the resource department, we also constantly work to create resource compilations. That is the kind of academic activity which doesn't really happen at the undergrad level, but we are still trying to do that. And we are pretty good at it. The compilation is working quite well. Communications, as you know, PR strategy, just trying our best to have an outreach, trying our best to get the stage to the people that we call. And yeah, but let's say that you do not want to be a regular contributor, right? You have your things going on, you cannot contribute throughout. You can also take independent initiatives. The discussion session on dating apps is one of the many examples, right? That question, the moderators, if you see the poster, was their personal project, right? Because they were passionate about it, we thought of having a discussion on it. So again, basically, we are way too flexible in that sense. You don't want to contribute year long, You only want to contribute. Yeah, this is last session, right? You don't
I
want to
just want
contribute year
I'm
long.
so
You only want to have this one conversation which matters so much to you. You get to have it. Just talk to us about it. If there's someone you want to call, we'll call that person. If there's a conversation you want to have, you'll have that conversation, right? Not bragging again, but there's genuinely no society that gives you this kind of flexibility. Lastly, a very, very important idea about our work ethic. We don't work in a hierarchical setup, right? There will be no one ordering you around that, oh, you do this and you do that. We are a collective. We work in a collaborative sense. Just remember these two things when you consider applying here, right? We work in a bottoms up approach. We love creative conflicts, right? I mean, this team is wonderful. So like we have sat for hours and hours just talking about things because we had a creative conflict there with the intention and the motivation of that debate not being ego, right? But the intention precisely being what is best for this collective. A major benefit of that is that you will learn to accept that you are not right all the time, right? You learn to accept teamwork. You learn to accept criticism. And that's always a good thing. What we're looking for, this is the last thing we have, then we'll shut up, we'll talk, we'll make it much more interactive. I know it's been an hour. Great, open-mindedness. Again, don't be rigid, be radical for sure. We love radical feminists. We love it if you want to see gender everywhere. We love it if you hate gender and we are really angry about it. This is most certainly your space for your queer rage and your feminist rage. Secondly, have that willingness to learn and unlearn. Be active, right? Constantly make an effort. You don't understand something, you aren't able to, something confuses you, have a discussion about it, right? Organize a discussion or tell us to organize a discussion and we'll talk about it. Lastly, as Vaishnavi mentioned, safe space. We are way too rigid about consent and boundaries, way too rigid. So much so at a point boundaries and consent are violated, you'll be kicked out immediately. That's the point. At a point when we are shouting that we want to make a safe space in this collective, we most certainly mean that we want to create a safe space in this collective, right? So that's also one thing. At a point you feel violated, at a point you feel someone has crossed a boundary, you most certainly have a redressal mechanism. You most certainly have people to reach out to here, be it outside this collective, be it inside this collective. And again, that's possibly, I think, the only thing we are rigid about. Everything else we're flexible about. The only thing we will simply not tolerate is you violating consent, is you invading someone's boundaries, right? And I don't really see any kind of a problem with that kind of a culture. Rather, I think we need more and more spaces wherein boundaries are respected and respect for boundaries is inculcated in members. And again, fourthly, community spirit, home away from home, genuinely. And yeah, be a part of QFC family. You genuinely love it. Next one. Great. All right. I think now we can, that's basically it from our side. Yeah, the form has been opened. The form closes on 18th December. It's a very simple form. It's a very short form, not in the sense of short form, but shorter form, as I've been bullied into by my core members to make. But like, yeah, the point being, it's a very simple form. We just want to know where you stand. We just want to know who you are, what are your values. Simple words, are you a good person or not, in the sense of consent and boundaries. You will see questions about allyship, you will see questions about feminism. You don't understand them, totally fine, right? One of the major things you need to remember here, membership to this collective is not contingent on how aware you are already. You don't know what mainstream allyship is. You don't know what orientations are. You don't know what pronouns are. You don't know what all pronouns there are. You don't know what types of feminisms there are. Totally fine, right? This is a space wherein you come in and learn that. The only thing we expect from you is that you put in the effort to learn. We are willing to learn with you. The only thing we want from you is to collaborate enough with us. That's genuinely the only thing we want. And yeah, I think that's enough for the pitch. I think we've sold it enough from our end. So yeah, let's just open the floor for questions. Yeah. People can type in on chat. Otherwise, you can raise your hands and we'll just unmute you.
Just to clarify one thing, I see many questions like if there would be an interview process or selection process.
Yeah.
No, this is not that kind of space. You just fill in the form, and even if you don't know anything, as Ant said right now, आपको अगर कुछ नहीं भी समझ आ रहा है, just say that I don't understand this and I want to learn this. We take you with full like ऐसे आ जाओ. I am a free hugger and हम सबको बोलते हैं आ जाओ कोई बात नहीं. That's our space. We love that.
Yeah. Questions? Could someone please read from the chat? I can't see it.
Just a second.
You can type in your questions, you can raise your hands, we'll like accommodate everything.
Additionally, if you don't have any questions, I'm really hoping, again, if you do, that's great. But if you don't, then totally fine. If any of you are really sure that, okay, this is my space, I want to be a part of QFC, then yeah, just maybe introduce yourself, tell us who you are. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm glad this came in such a later stage. There are no sirs or ma'ams in this collective. Two major reasons for that. Firstly, we don't assume anyone's gender. At a point, no one has told you anything about them. Yeah, at a point, no one has told you anything about them. You don't know anything about them. So the best way to call people is by their first name. Second reason, we don't want to be a sirs and ma'ams. Don't even call us bhaiya didi. I think we are. I will turn 19. I don't know when. I have generally no idea when I'll turn 19. Right. But the point, I mean, I'll turn 19 soon. But yeah, the point being, it's a family. Just use names and be casual. Just be casual. Don't be formal, but don't violate boundaries, and you're totally cool to go. Yeah. Thank you, Keshav.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll put.
Sunday. Yeah. Cool. Is anyone willing to talk?
Take a second. I got this personal question from someone, and they said if they don't know anything about what is transgender, what is cisgender, if they still can be a member of QFC. Welcome. That is the space. Like, what is the space for? We are here to increase that kind of awareness. We don't care what we know. If you are willing to learn and unlearn certain amounts of things that are required to be a good person, this is your space. I'm quite late in the meeting. Could you please tell me in brief? I guess we'd be putting up this orientation on
we will be on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Can we stop recording though? Like we're done with the